I made this for you.
Wow, a swan, thank you.
That's very kind of you.
It's so cool.
You're very welcome. Enjoy your meal.
What do you say?
Thank you.
And a special swan for the young gentleman.
Wow, thank you.
That's very kind of you.
My pleasure. Enjoy your meal.
It's so cool.
It is.
Here you go, a special swan for you.
Wow, thank you.
That's wonderful. What do you say?
Thank you. It's so cool.
You're very welcome. Enjoy.
And for you, a little something special.
Wow, a swan, thank you.
That's incredible. You made that?
I did. I hope you enjoy it.
It's so cool. Look, Dad.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Why won't you just look at me, buddy? Bennett Caldwell, the man behind Pinnacle Atlantic Holdings, was on his knees in a Richmond diner begging a 6-year-old who hadn't spoken a word in his life. Rowan was thrashing, screaming, face twisted shut. 6 years, over $2 million in specialists. Nothing. Then a black waitress sat at the next booth and started folding a napkin. The boy stopped, turned, went still. She set a paper bird on the table. Rowan reached out and smiled. "Who are you?" Nobody you'd remember. She walked away back to clearing plates, but that moment was the beginning of the worst mistake Bennett Caldwell ever made. Look, that moment in the diner was just the beginning. What came next, nobody was ready for. Before the napkin bird, before the scream, before Bennett Caldwell walked through that door, Kara Ellis arrived for her shift early, as she always did. She tied her apron in the kitchen, tucked her phone into the front pocket, and checked the screen one more time. 3 missed calls from Grandma Clara's home care aide. She didn't call back, not yet, because calling back meant hearing a number, how much was owed, how far behind they were, how many weeks the aide could keep showing up for free before she stopped showing up at all. Kara put the phone away and pushed through the kitchen door. "You look like you slept in a mailbox," Loretta Vance said from behind the register. "Good morning to you too, Loretta. I'm serious. You eating?" "I ate." "Liar." Loretta slid a biscuit wrapped in foil across the counter. "Eat that before the lunch rush, or I'm docking your pay. You don't pay me enough to dock." "Exactly. So, eat." That was Loretta, 61 years old, owner of Vance's Corner Cafe since 1996. She'd built the place with insurance money after her husband died, turned a 2-room sandwich counter into the only diner on this block that survived 3 recessions and a pandemic. Tough mouth, soft hands. The kind of woman who'd fire you Monday and pay your rent Tuesday. Kara bit into the biscuit and got to work. The lunch crowd was the usual. Mr. Donnelly in booth 3, grilled cheese, no tomato, extra pickle, same as every Saturday since his wife passed. 2 college kids splitting a milkshake and studying for something they'd probably fail. A woman in scrubs eating alone, staring at her phone like it owed her money. Kara moved through them the way she always did. Quiet, quick, noticing things nobody asked her to notice. She refilled Mr. Donnelly's sweet tea before he finished the first glass. She brought the college kids extra napkins because one of them always spilled. She left the woman in scrubs alone because sometimes that's what people actually need. "Order up, table 6. Loretta called. Kara grabbed the plates. 2 burgers, 1 salad, a kid's meal with the fries arranged in a smiley face because she always did that, even though nobody asked. Table 6 was a mother with 2 daughters. The younger one saw the fries smiley and gasped like Kara had performed actual magic. "Mom! Mom! Look!" The mother glanced at the plate, then at Kara. Didn't say thank you. Didn't look up again. Kara didn't flinch. She never did. She dropped the check at table 2. A guy in a polo who'd been camping for a long time on a small order. He left 3 quarters and a dime on the table. 85 cents. Kara pocketed it without expression, wiped the table, reset the silverware. Loretta watched from the kitchen window and shook her head. Later, when Kara wasn't looking, she slipped a $5 bill into the tip jar under Kara's name. That was the thing about Kara Ellis. She never complained. Not about the tips, not about the hours, not about the fact that she was 2 semesters away from a degree in early childhood education that she'd probably never finish because her grandmother's medical bills ate every dollar before it landed. She just worked, showed up, paid attention, and she had this thing Loretta called the radar. Kara could walk into a room and know within seconds who was hurting, not because they told her, because she watched. The way someone held their coffee cup, the way someone's laugh came a half-second too late, the way a child's eyes darted before a meltdown hit. She couldn't explain it, didn't try to. It was just how she was built. So when the front door opened and a man in an Oxford shirt walked in holding the hand of a small boy who was already trembling, Kara clocked it before anyone else in the room. The boy's fingers were fluttering. His breathing was shallow. His eyes were scanning the ceiling lights like they were hurting him. Kara reached over and angled the window blinds, quietly pulled the fluorescent table menu out of the booth before they sat down, replaced the metal spoon with a wooden stir. She didn't say a word, didn't explain. The man didn't notice, but the boy, just for a second, stopped trembling, and that was before everything went wrong. That night, two people sat alone in two very different rooms carrying the same weight. Kara's apartment was above a laundromat on East Broad Street, one bedroom, a kitchen that doubled as a living room. The washing machines downstairs vibrated through the floor every single day until the hum became something she didn't hear anymore. The way you stop hearing your own heartbeat. She dropped her keys on the counter, pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from Denise, her grandmother's home care aide. She called back. "Kara, I love Miss Clara. You know I do." Denise's voice was careful, practiced, the voice of someone who'd rehearsed what she was about to say. "But I'm weeks behind. I got my own bills. I know. I'm going to. You said that last month." Silence. "Just give me till the end of the week, Denise. Please." That's it. Kara hung up. She sat at the kitchen table, the same table where her grandmother used to help her with homework, and opened the laptop. One new email. Financial aid office, subject line, application status update. She already knew before she clicked. "We regret to inform you." She closed the laptop, didn't slam it, didn't cry, just closed it, pulled the stack of medical bills from under a textbook she hadn't opened in months, and counted what she had. $340. That was it. That was everything. 12 miles west, Bennett Caldwell walked through the front door of a house worth millions and heard nothing. That was the thing about the Caldwell estate. It was built for sound to disappear. Marble floors, vaulted ceilings, rooms so large that footsteps dissolved before they reached the walls. Rowan was already in bed. The monitor on Bennett's phone showed the boy asleep, curled tight, blanket kicked off, the way he always slept. Fiona had filed her nightly report and left it on the kitchen island. 3 pages. Times, meals, behavioral notes, medication log. She wrote about Rowan the way an engineer writes about a machine. Bennett didn't read it. Not that night. He walked upstairs, past Rowan's room, past the guest room, past the bathroom no one used, down the hall to the master bedroom, the one he still shared with a ghost. Audrey's closet was exactly as she'd left it. Dresses still wrapped in dry cleaning bags, shoes lined up on the rack, a scarf, lavender, cashmere, draped over a hook by the door. Bennett picked it up, held it to his face. Years since the accident. Years since a truck ran a red light and took her out of the world in seconds. Years and the scarf still smelled like her perfume. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe he just needed it to. He stood there for a long time. Then he thought about the diner, about the waitress, about the way his son's mouth had moved, that tiny, impossible curve, and how it was the closest thing to Audrey he'd seen since she died. Bennett came back the next day, and the day after that. He didn't explain, didn't call ahead, just showed up with Rowan at the same booth, same time, and ordered the same thing. Black coffee, scrambled eggs for the boy, nothing else. Kara didn't ask questions. She just folded. Napkin birds one day, a napkin frog the next. Something that might have been a dog after that. She laughed at that one, and Rowan's eyes tracked her face when she did. Soon, Rowan was arranging the animals in a line along the windowsill, sorting them, adjusting their positions, starting over when one was crooked. Fiona watched from the end of the booth, arms crossed, mouth tight. Loretta watched from behind the register. "That man's been here several days straight," Loretta said, drying a glass. "You know who he is?" Kara shrugged. "A dad with a kid who likes napkin birds." "Mm-hmm." Loretta set the glass down. "Girl, I Googled him." Loretta, Pinnacle Atlantic Holdings. Look it up. "I don't need to look it up. He tips well and his kid is sweet." Loretta shook her head but said nothing more. Some conversations need to wait. One Friday, Kara came home to a yellow paper taped to her front door. 30-day eviction notice. She peeled it off, read it once, folded it in half, put it in her back pocket. Then she sat on the bottom step of the stairwell, the one with the cracked tile that the landlord never fixed, and pressed both hands over her mouth. She cried the way people cry when they've trained themselves not to make a sound. "Nah, hold on. This ain't right." She got so little, an eviction notice, a grandmother about to lose her nurse, and she's out here folding napkin birds for somebody else's kid, not a single complaint. Put yourself in her shoes. You got nothing left and you're still giving? I can't. The following Monday, Bennett walked into Vance's corner early. No Rowan, no Fiona, just him. Suit jacket off, sleeves rolled, like he was trying to look less like what he was. It didn't work. The watch alone gave him away. He sat at the counter, not a booth. The counter, where Kara couldn't avoid him. She poured his coffee without asking. Black, no sugar. She'd memorized it after a few visits. I need to talk to you, he said. You're talking. He reached into his jacket and placed a white envelope on the counter between them, slid it toward her with 2 fingers. Kara looked at it, didn't touch it. Open it, he said. Please. She wiped her hands on her apron, picked it up, and pulled out the contents. A typed letter on Pinnacle Atlantic letterhead, and a check, $25,000. She read the letter slowly, every line. Full-time position as Rowan's personal care companion. Benefits, flexible schedule, a salary that was more than she made in a year at the diner. She put the letter down, looked at the check, looked at Bennett. Then she slid the envelope back across the counter. I don't know you, she said, and I don't take money I haven't earned. Bennett blinked. I'm sorry. What? I said no. Ms. Ellis, I don't think you understand what I understand fine. You want to buy what I did for your son, but that wasn't a service. That was just kindness. From the kitchen, Loretta Vance's hand froze mid-reach for a stack of plates. She'd been listening to every word. Bennett sat there for a long moment. He wasn't used to this. People didn't slide things back to Bennett Caldwell. They asked for more. My son hasn't smiled in 6 years, he said quietly. He smiled at you. I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm asking for help. Kara held his gaze, said nothing. Then she picked up the coffee pot and walked to the next customer. Bennett left the envelope on the counter. Kara didn't touch it for the rest of her shift. Loretta locked the front door after closing, walked straight to the kitchen where Kara was scrubbing a grill pan like it owed her rent. So, Loretta said, leaning against the doorframe, you just turned down $25,000. Loretta, $25,000. I heard the number. Girl, I love your pride. Lord knows I do, but pride don't pay for your grandmama's nurse. That landed. Kara's hand stopped moving. Loretta pulled out her phone, scrolled, turned the screen toward Kara. Pinnacle Atlantic Holdings, Fortune 200. His wife died years ago, car accident. The boy's been in and out of specialists ever since. Every article says the same thing. No progress. Kara stared at the screen. The wife's obituary photo. A blonde woman holding a toddler Rowan, both of them laughing. Why would someone like him come to our diner? Kara asked. Loretta put the phone down, looked at her. Because his money can't do what your hands do. The kitchen was quiet. The grill pan dripped into the sink. I'm not saying take the check, Loretta said. I'm saying hear the man out. One conversation, here. Not his office, not his house. Right here where I can see you. Kara dried her hands, folded the towel, set it on the counter. One conversation. That's my girl. And I'm not cashing that check. Baby, nobody asked you to. Yet. Tuesday morning, Vance's corner was empty, except for the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of Loretta humming gospel in the kitchen. Bennett arrived shortly after. Kara was already sitting in the booth with a glass of water and her apron folded on the table beside her. Off duty, on purpose. He sat across from her. No envelope this time, no lawyer, just him. Thank you for, let's skip that part, Kara said. You want me to work with your son, so let's talk about what that looks like. Bennett nodded, waited. I'm not moving into your house, okay? I want a trial period, 4 weeks. If it doesn't work, I walk clean. That's fair. I keep 2 shifts here at the diner. This is still my job. Of course, I want to meet Rowan's therapist before I start. His teachers, too. I need to know what's been tried and what hasn't. I'll arrange it. And you call me Kara, not Ms. Ellis, not the caregiver. Kara. Bennett almost smiled. Kara. Got it. She paused, looked at her water glass, turned it once on the table. One more thing. If Rowan doesn't want me there, if he pulls away, if he shuts down, if he's worse instead of better, I leave after 1 week. No hard feelings. No check. You don't owe me anything, and I don't owe you. And if he does want you there, then we figure out the next step. Bennett exhaled. For the first time in this conversation, his shoulders dropped. I'll have my attorney draw something up. Simple. Nothing complicated? Good, because I don't do complicated. From the kitchen, Loretta's humming had stopped. She was standing in the window, watching, holding a coffee pot she'd forgotten to put down. One morning, Kara pulled her old Honda Civic, cracked windshield, check engine light permanently on, through the iron gates of the Caldwell estate. The driveway alone was longer than her block. She parked next to luxury cars and sat in her car for a moment, hands on the wheel, breathing. Then she grabbed the canvas bag from the passenger seat, napkin paper, wooden blocks, 3 jars of finger paint she'd bought at a dollar store, and walked to the front door. Fiona opened it before she knocked. You must be the new arrangement. Not a greeting, a classification. Kara, follow me. The house was enormous and silent. White marble, high ceilings, art on the walls that looked expensive and sad at the same time. No toys on the floor, no drawings on the fridge, no noise. Rowan's room was on the second floor. Fiona opened the door and stepped aside. The room was clinical. White walls, organized shelves, a weighted blanket folded in precise thirds on a bed that looked like it belonged in a catalog. A laminated daily schedule taped to the wall, every block accounted for. Fiona handed Kara a binder, thick, tabbed sections, dietary, behavioral, medical, emergency, communication protocols. Everything you need is in here, Fiona said. His routine is non-negotiable. Deviations cause setbacks. I've documented every variable. Kara flipped through it. Pages and pages of charts, graphs, notes in small handwriting. Rowan reduced to data points. She closed the binder, set it on the desk. Where's Rowan? Downstairs. Breakfast just ended. Can I see him? Fiona's mouth tightened. He's on schedule. I'll wait then. Kara sat on the floor, right there in the middle of Rowan's room, cross-legged, canvas bag open. She pulled out a stack of napkin paper and started folding. She didn't look at the binder again. Soon, a small shadow appeared in the doorway. Rowan stood there, rigid, fingers fluttering, eyes scanning the room like something had changed, and he needed to map it. His gaze landed on Kara's hands. She folded, slow, steady. A bird first, then a frog, then something she hoped looked like a rabbit. Rowan inched forward. 1 step, 2. He lowered himself to the floor a short distance away from her and watched. Before long, he was sitting beside her. He was touching the animals, lining them up in a row along the baseboard. He placed one in Kara's palm, a gift, his first. Fiona watched from the hallway, arms folded, jaw set. The week unfolded fast. The next day, Rowan followed Kara from room to room. Not close, but following. Soon after, she introduced textures, velvet scraps, warm water in a shallow bowl, garden soil in a tin cup. Rowan pressed his fingers into each one again and again, mapping the feeling. Another day, Kara hummed while she worked, an old hymn, something her grandmother used to sing when Kara was scared of thunderstorms. Low, steady, no words. Rowan's head tilted. By afternoon, he was humming back, same melody, same rhythm, his version. They walked in the garden. Rowan reached up and took Kara's hand. She didn't react, didn't gasp, didn't squeeze. She just held it, light and easy, and kept walking. The grocery store. Bennett had asked Kara to pick up a few things with Rowan. Practice real-world exposure. It went fine until one aisle. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder there, and a cart crashed behind them. Rowan dropped, hands over ears, rocking. Kara sat on the floor right next to him, didn't pull him up, didn't shush him. She hummed the hymn and put her body between him and the noise. A woman in the next aisle whispered to her friend, "Is that her kid? Doesn't look like it." Kara heard every word, didn't flinch, kept humming. When Bennett came home early, the house was quiet, which usually meant something was wrong. He found them in the kitchen. Rowan was sitting at the island, a crayon in his fist, blue, dragging it across paper in long, uneven strokes. His first drawing. Kara sat beside him, chin in her hand, watching like it was the most important thing in the world. Rowan looked up at his father and smiled. Bennett stood there. He opened his mouth to say something. Nothing came out. He turned, walked to the hallway, pressed his back against the wall, slid down until he was sitting on the floor, and covered his face with both hands. He wept. Not quietly, not the controlled kind, the kind that comes when you've held something so tight for so long that the moment it loosens, even a little, everything breaks at once. In the kitchen, Kara heard it. She didn't go to him. She knew some things you have to feel alone. She picked up a blue crayon and drew a bird next to Rowan's scribble. Rowan looked at it, then back at his paper, and drew a line connecting them. Weeks in, and the Caldwell house had a heartbeat again. It was small things, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you'd lived in the silence that came before. Rowan pointed at things now. The window, a bird outside, the jar of peanut butter on the counter. He'd extend one finger and look at Kara, and she'd say the word, window, bird, peanut butter, and he'd move his lips trying to catch the shape of it. Some days the sound came out. Some days it didn't, but he kept trying. He slept through the night, every night, for the first time since Audrey died. Fiona's nightly reports got shorter. There was less to document when a child was calm. Kara arrived in the morning, worked with Rowan until the afternoon, drove to the diner for the evening shift. 2 worlds, 1 woman, every single day. She never complained. She never mixed them. Bennett started coming home earlier. He'd stand in the kitchen doorway watching Kara and Rowan work. Puzzles, textures, sounds, and something in his posture changed. The rigidity softened. The phone stayed in his pocket longer. One evening, Kara cooked. She hadn't planned to. Rowan was hungry. Fiona had left early, and the fridge had pasta, garlic, and butter. So she made something simple, the same thing her grandmother made when there wasn't much in the house, but you still needed dinner to feel like home. Bennett came in and found the 3 of them at the kitchen island, Rowan eating with his hands, Kara wiping sauce off his chin, a pot still warm on the stove. He sat down. Kara pushed a plate toward him without a word. They ate. Nobody spoke for a while. The house smelled like garlic and butter and something that had been missing for years. Rowan's therapist called that day, asked what changed. I told her we hired someone. He paused, pushed a noodle around his plate. But that's not really it, is it? Kara looked at him. No. You let someone in, that's what changed. Bennett held her gaze, nodded once, looked at his son. Rowan was arranging 3 pieces of pasta in a line on the counter. Straight, even, perfect. Some things don't need words. Cassandra Hale noticed it on a Tuesday. Bennett rescheduled the afternoon board review, moved it later, no explanation, just a 1-line email from his assistant. Mr. Caldwell has a personal commitment. Personal commitment. Bennett Caldwell didn't have personal commitments. Bennett Caldwell had quarterly earnings, shareholder calls, and acquisition timelines. That was his life. That had been his life since Audrey died. Then she noticed the pattern. Leaving earlier, canceling dinners with investors, smiling. Actually smiling during a Monday morning briefing. Bennett Caldwell didn't smile on Mondays. Bennett Caldwell didn't smile at all. Cassandra made a call. The private investigator's name was Glenn. Efficient, discreet, expensive. She'd used him twice before, once during a hostile takeover, once to vet a whistleblower. He was good at finding the shape of a person's life and making it look like whatever you needed it to look like. Days later, Glenn delivered a file. Kara Ellis, age 28, no degree. Dropped out of Virginia Commonwealth, 2 semesters short. Current employer, Vance's Corner Cafe. Annual income, $23,000. Outstanding debt, $12,000. Eviction notice filed. Grandmother on Medicaid. No professional certifications. No childcare license. No background in behavioral therapy. And a photograph. Taken at a grocery store. Kara sitting on the floor of an aisle next to Rowan Caldwell, who was curled in a ball with his hands over his ears. Out of context, it looked like a crisis. Out of context, it looked like negligence. Cassandra smiled. Context was her business. She drafted a memo, 2 paragraphs, sent it to board members, the 2 most risk-averse men on the board. The framing was surgical, concerned about the CEO's judgment. Unvetted individual with financial distress and no qualifications given unsupervised access to a vulnerable minor. Reputational exposure. Liability risk. She never mentioned Kara's race. She didn't have to. Cassandra arrived at the Caldwell estate one afternoon, unannounced. She brought a man in a charcoal suit, introduced him as Dr. Warren Hayes, child welfare consultant. Bennett met them in the study. He hadn't invited either of them. Bennett, this isn't an ambush, Cassandra said, sitting down like she owned the chair. This is a friend looking out for you. Then call first. I would have, but this couldn't wait. She nodded to Hayes. He opened a folder and placed it on the desk. The investigator file. Every page a weapon. Kara's debts itemized. Her incomplete transcripts. The eviction filing. The grocery store photo printed full page. Rowan on the floor. Kara beside him. Fluorescent lights overhead making everything look worse than it was. Who authorized this? Bennett's voice was low. I did, Cassandra said, because someone had to. Bennett, you're a public figure. The CEO of a Fortune 200 company. And you've placed your nonverbal 6-year-old son in the care of an unqualified, financially desperate woman with no credentials and no oversight. She's not. If this gets to the press, or worse, to a courtroom, the board won't protect you. I'm trying to protect you. Hayes leaned forward, professional, measured, rehearsed. Mr. Caldwell, my recommendation is to suspend the arrangement pending a formal review. Standard protocol in cases involving Bennett looked at him. My son isn't a case. Of course not, but the optics. The optics. Silence. Cassandra let it breathe. She'd done this before. Plant the doubt, then give it room to grow. Bennett looked at the grocery store photo. Rowan on the floor, Kara beside him. He knew what had actually happened in that moment. He knew Kara had shielded his son. He knew she'd hummed until the panic passed. He knew, but the photo didn't show that. The photo showed something else. And for the first time, just for a second, doubt crept in. From the doorway, Fiona watched, arms crossed. She nodded once. Bennett called Kara that evening. She was halfway through her shift at the diner, balancing plates. She stepped into the kitchen to answer. Hey, everything okay with Rowan? His voice was different, flat, corporate, the voice he used in boardrooms, not in his kitchen over pasta. Kara, I need to pause the arrangement. She set the plates down. Pause? Just temporarily. There are some concerns about oversight. About whose concerns? Silence. Bennett, whose concerns? It's just for Rowan's sake until we sort some things out. For Rowan's sake. Kara knew that phrase. She'd heard versions of it her whole life. It was never about the person they named. It was always about the person too afraid to say what they really meant. Okay, she said. Kara, I said okay. She hung up, stood in the kitchen for a full minute, both hands flat on the stainless steel counter, breathing. Loretta looked at her from across the room, but didn't ask. Not yet. The next morning, Kara drove to the Caldwell estate one last time. She packed her canvas bag, the napkin paper, the finger paints, the wooden blocks, the velvet scraps. She rolled up Rowan's crayon drawings and tucked them under her arm. The blue bird, the scribbled lines, the one where he'd drawn a brown figure with something yellow in its hand. Fiona stood by the front door, held it open, didn't speak. Kara stopped at the threshold, turned back toward the house. He was starting to say words, Bennett. Bennett stood at the end of the hallway, hands in his pockets. He didn't move. He was almost there. She walked out, the door closed behind her. Upstairs, Rowan stood at his bedroom window. He watched the Honda Civic pull down the long driveway, past the iron gates, and disappear. His mouth opened. No sound came out. Then he screamed, the kind of scream from the diner, raw, shredded, from somewhere deeper than his lungs. He didn't stop for hours. Fiona tried the headphones, the blanket, the protocol card. Nothing worked. Nothing worked, because the one thing that worked had just driven away in a car with a cracked windshield and little money in the bank. Kara came back to this diner like nothing happened. Apron on, hair tied, tables wiped, orders up. The same rhythm, the same routine, the same hourly wage. She didn't talk about the Caldwell estate, didn't mention Rowan, didn't mention Bennett. She just worked. But Loretta knew. She knew because Kara stopped humming. Weeks at that house, and the girl had started humming again. That old hymn, the one from her grandmother. Now the kitchen was silent, and Kara's hands moved faster than they needed to, scrubbing things that were already clean. Loretta gave it a couple days, then she locked the front door at closing, pulled up a chair across from Kara, and sat down. Talk. Loretta, I'm fine. I didn't ask if you were fine. I said talk. Kara's hands stopped. She stared at the rag in her grip, wrung it once, then told Loretta everything. The woman in the suit, the file, the fake consultant, Bennett's voice on the phone, flat, rehearsed, not his for Rowan's sake. Loretta didn't interrupt. She sat. She listened, and when Kara finished, Loretta's jaw was set so tight the muscle in her cheek twitched. So, let me understand this, Loretta said slowly. They dug up your eviction, your debt, your transcripts, and they used all that, everything you've been surviving, to call you a threat to a child you were healing. That's what happened. And Bennett believed it. He didn't fight it. That's the same thing. Loretta stood up, paced the length of the counter, stopped. No, that's not the same thing. That man is scared. Scared people fold. But the woman who did this to you, she's not scared. She's calculated. And calculated is worse. Loretta picked up her phone. What are you doing? Calling my nephew, Jerome. He's a reporter at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Loretta, no. I don't want press. I'm not putting you in the press. I'm putting a flashlight on the people hiding in the dark. She scrolled, tapped, held the phone to her ear. And I'm calling Tamara Brooks. You remember her? Ran the special ed program at Fairfield Elementary. She'll know what Rowan's progress actually looks like on paper. In language, these people can't twist. Loretta, Kara, they used your struggle against you. That's what power does. But power's got a weakness. It assumes nobody's going to check the math. She pointed at Kara with the phone. We're checking the math. Miles away, Harrison Drake sat in Bennett's study late at night with a glass of bourbon he hadn't touched and a folder he'd been building. Warren Hayes, Harrison said, Cassandra's child welfare consultant. Bennett looked up from his desk. He hadn't slept. Rowan's screaming had stopped and had been replaced by something worse. Silence. The boy hadn't hummed, hadn't pointed, hadn't looked at anyone since. What about him? He's not a child welfare consultant. He's not licensed in any state. He's a corporate fixer, crisis management, reputation control. Cassandra used him before. His job isn't to protect children. His job is to make problems disappear. Bennett stared at him. The memo she sent, Harrison continued. It wasn't concern, it was a board play. She's positioning herself, Bennett. She's been positioning herself since Audrey died and you started pulling back. And the file on Kara, cherry-picked. The grocery store photo was taken out of context. The eviction was filed by a landlord who's under investigation for housing violations. Kara wasn't the problem. The building was. And her debt, medical, her grandmother's. Every dollar. Harrison leaned forward. You didn't protect Rowan, Bennett. You abandoned the one person who actually reached him because a woman in a corner office told you to be afraid. The room was silent. The bourbon sat untouched. Bennett turned to his computer, pulled up the home security system, clicked through the footage from the past weeks. Rowan smiling. Rowan taking Kara's hand in the garden. Rowan humming at the kitchen table. Rowan sitting on the floor beside her, lining up napkin birds along the baseboard. Then, a clip. Rowan standing in the kitchen doorway, mouth moving, trying to form a word, his lips shaping something. Again. Kara. Bennett's hand covered his mouth. What have I done? Harrison didn't answer. Some questions aren't meant to be answered by someone else. Monday morning, Pinnacle Atlantic Holdings. Cassandra Hale walked into the main conference room minutes early, the way she always did. Power sits first. She chose the chair to the right of the head, Bennett's chair, and set her portfolio down. Leather-bound, monogrammed, she'd prepared a succession timeline, subtle, nothing aggressive, just a gentle nudge toward the board. Bennett's performance was slipping, his focus was compromised, and the company needed stability. She'd plant it during new business. Let it breathe. Let it grow. The board filed in. The others. Harrison Drake took a seat in the corner. Unusual. He wasn't a board member. Then Bennett walked in. He looked different. Not tired. Not broken. Something else. The kind of calm that comes after you've already made the hardest decision. He didn't sit down. Thank you all for coming on short notice. This won't take long. Cassandra smiled, opened her portfolio. Weeks ago, Bennett said, I hired a woman to care for my son. She had no degree, no certifications, no connections. She was a waitress making minimum wage at a diner in Richmond. Cassandra's pen stopped. In weeks, she did something no specialist, no therapist, no program had managed in 6 years. My son smiled. My son hummed. My son picked up a crayon and drew for the first time in his life. My son started trying to speak. He clicked a remote. The wall screen lit up. Security footage, all visible. The board watched Rowan take Kara's hand in the garden. Watched him line up napkin birds on the baseboard. Watched him sit at the kitchen table drawing, calm, present. Watched him smile. The room was silent. Then, Bennett continued, someone in this company decided that woman was a threat. He clicked again. Cassandra's memo appeared on screen. Every word. This memo was sent to 2 board members by our senior vice president, Cassandra Hale. It describes the caregiver as, he read directly, an unvetted individual with financial distress and no qualifications. It recommends immediate removal. Cassandra's face didn't change. Not yet. The memo was supported by a report from a man named Warren Hayes, introduced to me as a child welfare consultant. Another click. Hayes's file. His real file. Warren Hayes is not a child welfare consultant. He holds no license in any state. He is a corporate fixer specializing in crisis management and reputation control. Ms. Hale retained him during previous deals. His job has never been to protect children. His job is to make people disappear. One board member shifted in his seat. Another removed his glasses. The evidence used against this caregiver, her debt, her eviction, a photograph from a grocery store, was gathered by a private investigator hired with corporate resources. The photograph was taken out of context. The eviction was filed by a landlord under investigation for housing code violations. The debt is medical. Her grandmother's. Bennett turned to Cassandra. You took everything this woman has been surviving, her poverty, her struggle, her lack of a piece of paper, and you weaponized it. Not to protect my son, to protect your position. Cassandra's composure cracked just a millimeter. She straightened her portfolio. Bennett, this is emotional. You're not thinking clearly. I was protecting the companies. This is about a waitress? She looked at the board. We're derailing a Fortune 200 company over a waitress? The room didn't move. Bennett let the silence hold. Then, kindness isn't a skill you hire. It's a truth you recognize. He turned to the board. I'm recommending immediate termination for cause. Misuse of corporate resources, fraudulent representation of a consultant, manipulation of board communications for personal advancement. They looked at each other. They looked at the screen, Rowan smiling. The vote was unanimous. Cassandra stood, gathered her portfolio, walked to the door, stopped. She looked at Bennett one last time. He didn't look back. The door closed behind her. The next morning, Bennett walked into Vance's Corner Cafe early. No suit jacket, no envelope, no lawyer. Kara was wiping down a booth. She saw him come in. Didn't stop wiping. He sat in their booth, folded his hands on the table, and waited. She finished the booths, took her time, refilled Mr. Donnelly's sweet tea, cleared a stack of plates from the counter, rang up a to-go order. Then she walked to the booth, order pad in hand, pen ready. What can I get you? Bennett looked up at her. I failed you. I failed my son. I don't have a check. I don't have a contract. I don't have a plan. He paused. I just have an apology and one question. Kara waited. Will you let me earn your trust back? She didn't answer right away. She looked at him, really looked, the way she looked at people when she was reading what they weren't saying. You don't earn my trust, she said. Rowan does. If he still wants me there, I'll come back. He does. He hasn't stopped. I'm not finished. Her voice was steady, not angry, not cold, just clear. This time I set the terms. All of them. Not your lawyer, not your board. Me. Okay. And if anyone comes at me with a file or a photo or a memo again, I'm gone. And I don't come back. That won't happen. You said that last time. You said for Rowan's sake. That landed. Bennett's eyes dropped to the table. You're right. I did. Silence. One chance, Kara said. That's what this is. One chance. From the kitchen, Loretta Vance stood at the window, coffee pot in hand, a tear running down her cheek that she'd deny until the day she died. That's my girl, she whispered. Kara drove through the iron gates the next afternoon. Same Honda Civic, same cracked windshield, same canvas bag on the passenger seat. She walked into the house, up the stairs, down the hall to Rowan's room. The napkin birds were still on the windowsill, every single one, untouched. Exactly where they'd been the day she left. She sat on the floor, pulled out folding paper, started folding. She didn't call for him, didn't announce herself. A shadow appeared in the doorway. Rowan stood there, still, fingers fluttering, eyes locked on her hands. He didn't move for a long time. Then he walked forward slowly, sat down beside her. Close, closer than before. He reached behind him and pulled out a piece of paper, a crayon drawing, wrinkled like he'd been holding it for days, a brown figure, a yellow bird in its hand. He placed it in Kara's lap. Her eyes filled. She pressed her lips together, held it. Rowan looked at her face. Then he opened his mouth. The sound was rough, unpracticed, like a door that hadn't been opened in years grinding against its frame. Kara. Kara's hand went to her mouth. Kara. In the hallway, Bennett Caldwell gripped the doorframe with both hands, his knuckles white, his breath gone. His son had just spoken a name, his first word, and it was hers. Kara set the drawing down, opened her arms, slowly, gently, no pressure. Rowan leaned in, pressed his forehead against her shoulder. He didn't pull away. She held him, light, easy, the way you hold something that finally, after everything, chose to stay. Months later, Kara Ellis walked across the stage at Virginia Commonwealth University in a cap and gown that Loretta Vance had ironed carefully because you're not graduating with wrinkles, baby. Early childhood education, 2 semesters she thought she'd never finish, funded by a scholarship from the Caldwell Foundation, not a personal check from Bennett, not charity, an application, an essay, a review board that didn't know her name until they read her work. She earned it. Rowan sat in the 3rd row of the auditorium between Bennett and Loretta. When Kara's name was called, Rowan stood up. He didn't clap. Too loud. Too much. But he raised both hands and fluttered his fingers in the air. His version of applause. The only version that mattered. The ripple kept moving. Kara worked with Rowan several days a week at the Caldwell estate. The other days, she drove across Richmond to Fairfield Elementary, where Tamara Brooks had built a special education program that was underfunded, understaffed, and doing miracles anyway. Kara consulted, trained aides, taught them what no textbook covered, how to read a room, how to slow down, how to meet a child where they are instead of dragging them to where you think they should be. Rowan was in a mainstream classroom now, with support, with a plan. He spoke in short phrases, 3-4 words at a time. Enough to ask for water. Enough to say no, thank you. Enough to say, Kara, come back. Every Wednesday morning when she left for Fairfield, he still folded napkin birds, every day. His teacher kept a shelf for them in the classroom. The other kids started asking him to teach them. He couldn't explain the steps with words yet, so he showed them, slowly, patiently, the way Kara had shown him. Bennett restructured his schedule, stepped back from daily operations, came home earlier. He and Kara had a professional respect that lived somewhere near the border of family, never crossing it, never needing to. What they shared wasn't a relationship. It was a debt repaid in presence. Loretta Vance got new booths, a new kitchen hood, and a sign out front that still read Vance's Corner Cafe in the same hand-painted letters from 1996. Bennett funded the renovation. Loretta approved every detail. You can fix my kitchen, she told him, but you touch that sign and I'll end you. Sunday morning, Vance's. Kara sat in the booth, Rowan beside her. He pulled a napkin from the dispenser, folded it, slowly, carefully, tongue between his teeth. The bird was lopsided, one wing too long, beak slightly crushed. He placed it on the windowsill next to a row of others. Then he looked up at Kara and grinned. She grinned back. At the counter, Bennett Caldwell held a coffee cup. He watched them, his son and the woman who saw him first. His hands were steady. So where are they now? Kara Ellis runs a nonprofit called Ground Level. It trains caregivers in underserved communities, sensory-friendly techniques, early intervention, the kind of care that doesn't require a 6-figure budget, just patience, just presence. Last year, the program reached 200 families across Virginia. Rowan Caldwell is 8 years old. He reads at grade level. He has a best friend who also likes folding things, mostly paper airplanes, which Rowan considers structurally inferior to birds. He's still quiet, still particular, still Rowan, but he's there, present, connected. Bennett Caldwell stepped down as CEO of Pinnacle Atlantic Holdings. He's chairman now, 3 days a week. The other 4 belong to his son. He told a reporter once that the smartest business decision he ever made had nothing to do with business. Cassandra Hale was last seen consulting for a firm currently under federal investigation for securities fraud. No one was surprised. Loretta Vance retired. The diner is run by her niece, Angela. The booth has a small brass plaque on the wall. It reads where it started. Man, 6 years. 6 years. No smile, no words, nothing. You spend millions, nothing works. Then a waitress with a napkin does what nobody could. Imagine that's your kid. Just imagine. Like, share, subscribe. We need more stories like this.